Hi, my name is Laura Afelskie, and you're watching The Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am so happy to be joined by Laura Afelsky. How are you?
Hi, I'm excited. I'm happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you and of course dive into your work in Netflix's Bet. But to start off, what can you share about your background in the arts and what sparked that passion in you?
So, I definitely did not grow up a child actor or anything like that. My family was very into sports, and that was my dad's big thing, and my brother, and I was kind of thrown into that world from a young age. So I played hockey and soccer and did cross country and all those kind of things. I had done a few plays here and there and talent shows and stuff like that when I was in elementary school slash high school, but nothing major or nothing. I wasn't doing it consistently or thinking I'm going to be an actor at that point. And then, yeah, basically towards the middle of high school, I had faced some health struggles and I was trying to figure out what do I want to do and what am I excited about and what what sparks my energy, what makes me excited to be alive, basically. And I was trying different things and I started taking an acting class and I really enjoyed it. And I now really enjoy storytelling as well. So from there on, it's kind of history, and that's where I started.
It's so interesting to look back at your past, and I'm sorry to hear about, facing some health issues, but when you find something that, really jives with you and like you said, gives you that energy and that joy, and you just want to continue doing it. Something very cool I saw you were part of Lego Friends Pop Stars. So you performed at
Yes.
like Family Channel's Big Ticket Summer around 10
Yes.
years ago now. So tell me a bit about that. I just asked because I watched Family Channel when I was younger, and I know you're friends with someone I watched on The Next Step, Alexandra Chaves. So it's kind of like this Family Channel connection there, and of course, very famous in Canadian television.
Yeah, that was, oh my gosh, I can't believe you you found that. That's so funny. That was probably my first booking, acting, singing, any type of role ever. It was an open call. I actually saw it on the Family Channel and they were playing these advertisements and you could come out and audition. So my mom took me out and we went to a recording studio and we did the audition there. And I didn't really think too much of it because I thought, oh, a lot of people are going to audition, and I didn't have an agent. I don't even know if at that point I had been taking acting classes. It was just kind of a spiral of event of things. And yeah, it was so fun. We got to perform at it's now called the Budweiser Stage, but that was really cool experience. And yes, Alex is a really good friend of mine. She's so supportive and so lovely and just so passionate and excited about what she does. So whenever I'm with her, I get to chat about her. I always leave feeling more energized. And yeah, I love her. So hi, Alex.
Hopefully, she'll see that little shout out from you.
Yeah.
And you also are a singer, so you didn't talk too much about it, but I've seen a couple of videos of you performing Dancing on My Own. So have you also done vocal training in addition to like acting in film?
So, yeah, before I was really acting, I was doing some singing when I was younger, but again, it wasn't anything. I had tried taking singing lessons, but I don't read music notes. So that became a little bit challenging. And again, I had only done that towards the end of high school, I think, but I had done some talent shows and yeah, I just had like sang randomly, and there are a few singing videos of me out there floating around. But I did get to do this one web series out in LA, and it was called Scenebot Stage. It's kind of I think they're like reviving it and coming back under a new name. But yeah, that was a great experience as well. I was posting some of my acting and singing videos on this app, and it was kind of just before COVID had hit. And yeah, I was posting stuff and they said, hey, come out to LA for this showcase, and you hear something like that and you think, I don't know if this is like, I don't know how safe this is. But it was run by a wonderful man named Stuart and his wife, and she's actually a casting director out in the States. And so I realized, oh, okay, this is actually a real thing. And yeah, I got to sing when I was there on stage, and we also did a couple acting scenes, and that's where I met my manager that I work with now, and he's so lovely. I'm just going to be shouting out everybody and telling them how lovely they are. But yeah, so yeah, I've had a few singing opportunities here and there for sure.
It's nice that you were able to go there and come out of it kind of like with a manager. So there's that networking aspect to it
Mhm.
as well. So a positive experience for you. And you have a wonderful voice. So I hope that you get to make use of
Yeah.
it in future projects. But you mentioned growing up in a sport-centric household, doing different sports, including hockey. Can you expand a bit more on how movement has played a role in your health and wellness over the years?
Yeah, I think it's very important, number one, to take care of your health and your well-being, especially, I mean, just for everybody in general, but especially as a performer, because if your body isn't, if you're not taking care of your mental health and your physical health and all those things, you can't perform up to the standards that you'll want to. And yeah, my dad was definitely very excited about hockey. That was his thing. So I think in my school I was one of like two or three girls that were playing hockey. I wasn't in dance and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, he really pushed forward for that. And I'm glad I did it because especially in high school, I continued to play and I met some of my best friends on that team and it was so much fun. And that's one of my goals. I really want to do a role where I get to be a hockey player. I have done volleyball, basketball, cross country, like all these other sports in shows, but I haven't played hockey yet. So I'm waiting for that one. I'm hoping it's gonna come through at some point.
And today you do more like yoga, Pilates, you've done kickboxing, horseback riding as well, which is a fun one.
Yeah, I picked up horseback riding during the pandemic, and that was so fun. And it was a great time to try something new, but also really nice to be outdoors and to explore something. And it's definitely interesting. I played team sports and things like that, but now doing something with an actual live animal, I was a bit nervous at first. I didn't want to fall off and everything. But you fall off, you get back up. But yeah, horseback riding is so fun. And I really love kickboxing classes that you can get out some of your aggression and everything that way. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. And I feel movement also helps you just release any tension in the body. And also if you're having an off day, you can just kind of go to the gym or you can go take a class or whatever and not think about everything else. You can kind of just focus on something physical for a while, which is really nice too.
Which has been the most impactful project in your career so far, and how did it change or enhance your perspective and skill set as an actor?
That's such a tough question. I think that obviously Bet, which I know we're going to get to, has such a special place in my heart, and I'm excited for the world to finally start experiencing that. But another project that really stands out is I got to work on this show called Painkiller, which was also for Netflix. And that was my first time on a really bigger profile project. And I was definitely very unsure of what to expect going into it, but all everybody on that set again was so great. Peter Berg, who directed it, I knew he had worked on Friday Night Lights and a bunch of other stuff, so I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, I'll go in, I'll do my thing, and then I'll be done for the day. But he was so phenomenal. He came and he talked to me about my character and about my audition and what my thoughts were on her world. So it was a very fun set just in terms of we were given a lot of creative freedom we improvised scenes and we want to change things around, let's change things around, let's chat about it, which was such a enlightening experience and so fulfilling as an actor when you're just given that freedom. And then also the stories that we were telling in that project are so, I think, just so important. And basically, the show revolves around the opioid crisis in the 90s and early 2000s, where people were just getting prescribed, Oxycontin, and it wasn't necessarily the best course of treatment, and a lot of people got addicted. And my character, she was that all-American girl who she has again, we're going back to the sports, but she was playing volleyball and she got injured, and her doctor prescribed her Oxy as a 15-year-old. And she gets hooked on that, and it's all downhill from her for there on out. But yeah, I enjoyed that experience. I enjoyed the people I worked with, and I also really enjoy being able to tell stories that I think number one just need to be heard, but also that have impacted so many people's lives. And yeah, just diving into that world and those mindsets. And I'll remember that project forever. So yeah, that was a really impactful one for sure.
And it's still such a topical subject matter. And there's something about saying, like you mentioned, that was such a nice experience too, but you never forget like your first kind of big project and being able to collaborate with a director and a crew in that nature. We'll get into Bet Now, where you, of course, star as Runa. This is a series inspired by the Japanese manga Kakegurui. What can you share about your audition process and what you were told about the show and the character you were auditioning for? And I did watch an interview you did where you went out for multiple characters. So tell me a bit about that as well.
Yeah, the audition process was definitely interesting for this project. I I know everybody kind of has their own story with auditioning for this, but for me, I had no idea what it was. I knew it was based on an anime, but I didn't know what anime or anything beyond that knowledge. And they had floated around ideas of think of the idea of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That was kind of that was really the only inspiration that we got. So yeah, I did, and all the character names were code names. So it's not as though, for example, you saw, oh, okay, Yumiko in the scene, so you could search up Yumiko and think. Some people were really smart and they figured out some of the storylines, but I definitely had no idea. So yeah, I had auditioned for two other characters before I auditioned for the character that ended up becoming Runa. And a lot of my experience was I was putting everything on tape. So I was putting things on tape and just doing it that way. By the time the third audition came around, I was thinking, I don't know if they're actually watching these. I was thinking, I don't know what the show is about. I'm not sure that I don't think I'm really getting it. Like I think they're trying to give me an opportunity, but I'm not sure exactly what's happening in this world. And then yeah, with the last audition, I put it on tape, and then later that day I had gotten an avail check. And so I was like, okay, this is a good sign. But then didn't hear anything for, I think, almost 2 weeks. I was auditioning for other things that casting director was also doing that would shoot over the same time period. So in my mind, I was thinking, I'm probably not getting this one. Like they're probably just, maybe I'm one of their backups and they're just waiting for the deal to go through on the main one. And my agent had called me. And then once she had called me, she started talking about this is how many episodes you're going to do and details of the contract and blah, blah, blah. And I remember sitting there thinking, so did I book it? Like, did I? And she's like, oh yeah, I've just been negotiating, but I forgot to tell you that you booked it. So I was so excited. I started crying on the phone with her. And yeah, it was just so fun. I knew from reading the other audition sides, I knew that those characters were fun, but I didn't quite think they were my character. And then with reading Runa's, I was just thinking, I'm just gonna put it on tape and we'll see what happens. And I wore my onesie for the audition mine that I had at home. But yeah, it was so much fun, and really glad it all worked out. So
Undue stress caused by, I'm sure, your lovely agent, but like agent 101, tell your client you booked the project because you're probably sitting in wait, like you mentioned, probably going like, oh, I guess I didn't book it. And I'm so happy that it worked out for you. Do you mind me asking which other characters you auditioned for?
yes, I auditioned for Dory, which was I forget what the code name was originally, but I auditioned for that character, and then I had also auditioned for Wendy, Yeah, so Wendy, the announcements.
Yeah,
Uh,
house pet, like secret
yeah,
corridor extraordinaire. Yeah,
yeah.
it's so interesting now. I'm sure to watch it back and see, other people in those roles of being like they fit perfectly, and then you, of course, really fit in well with Runa. So once you obviously found out what this was about, what specific elements did you draw inspiration from for Runa from the source material? And are there any other fictional characters or performances that informed you?
So I am a big researcher. If I'm auditioning for, or if I book something that's based off of a book or has another movie or anything like that, I want to get my hands on it as quickly as possible. So I watched the first season of the anime. Oh my gosh, very quickly. Like I think within less than a week I had watched it. And also once I had booked it, we were going to be shooting relatively soon. So I was thinking I have to understand what is this anime about? Who is Runa? What is going on in this world? So I had watched the first season and then the second season, I believe I started watching that as soon as we within my first week of filming or so. I wanted to to get it all under my belt pretty quickly. But yeah, it's different when you're pulling from an anime because the anime is done so well, and I didn't want to make Runa a caricature or yeah, just I didn't want to. My goal was to pull exactly like we do in the show, but to pull some inspiration from that, but also blend her into what this new world of Bet is, and also what my take on this character is as well. So the hair makeup wardrobe was definitely a very big part of building this character and something that I really wanted to honor from because when you see her on screen, even in the anime, you can't miss her. It's she's iconic from it, and so I wanted to find ways to pull in elements of that. The lollipop was something that was non-negotiable. I had to have the lollipop, so you see me every scene in the show. I've got that with me, and also making sure even just that using that prop that it wasn't didn't just become something that was kind of there in the background, that I was actually able to incorporate that into part of her mannerisms and yeah, some of her voice. I just I wanted to pull my favorite parts of her from that anime and bring that in and what suited me into this world. So I watched that. I also watched a lot of fan edits and even some people's cosplays and stuff out there to kind of see what does everybody love about Runa? What are their favorite moments? So yeah.
What would you say are your version of Runa's like her key personality traits?
I think that Runa is very she's an observer. So she is smart and she's always listening and she knows what's going on, but she doesn't want to get her hands dirty. And I think that comes into you hear a lot of people refer to her as a neutral party, and I believe that to a certain extent, but I think she enjoys the drama and she wants to listen in and she wants to see it unravel, but she's not going to do her dirty work. Like she's got the beaver working for her, and she definitely isn't going to let people walk all over her. I think it's a fine balance of, and I have also felt this way in my own life, but when you look very innocent or youthful or whatever, people tend to want to walk all over you or don't take you seriously. And I think that for Runa, that's something that she doesn't want to happen. And she is very direct with people, and she's if she wants something and she needs to get something done, she's gonna do it. She's not gonna You're not just gonna be like, oh, look at the cute little girl over there. She's not gonna let you walk all over her. Which is so fun to play. And yeah, it's cool to explore the different sides of her. And every scene that I did, I feel like I got to learn more about her, which was really cool.
I love that. And we'll talk a bit about that power that she holds with respect to the money and the loan shark in just a moment. But you mentioned a large part being her look with hair, makeup, and wardrobe. So tell me a bit more about creating that with the team, especially the different onesies you wore. And I read that it was Charlene and her team hand sewn most or all of the onesies and included wire into the hoods as well to be able to frame your face for the camera.
Yes, oh my gosh, the wardrobe team on this, they were phenomenal. Yeah, exactly like you said, they made all of the onesies that she wears. And it was a challenging thing because with the hoods, we had to make sure that it would stay up, right? And it couldn't be if it was too big, then it would fall over on my eyes, or if it was too small, it would fall back. And so we really had to figure out how to kind of position each one. And at some points, I even had this, I forget what you call it. It's a mesh type material to kind of help keep the hoods in place as well, depending on because each one would sit slightly differently. And some of them have like tails at the back, or the unicorn had a big piece on the back. So kind of getting it all to stay up was a bit of a challenge, but oh my gosh, I so many fittings and they made sure that I was comfortable and that everything sat properly. But yeah, it was very important for me to make sure that her looks matched that energy that she gives in the anime because I felt if we weren't going to keep the original the whole time, then I wanted to make sure that each look was really fun and fit into Runa's vibe. I love that, we open up seeing her in the loan shark outfit. So it's a great way to kind of position and say, hey, this is who she is. And the looks are bright, they're fun, they're colorful. The even all the accessories she's got. I have a ring pop ring at one point. I've got lollipop earrings. And one other thing that I wanted to bring into this world was her bangs. Because as you can see, I don't have bangs in real life. So our hairstylist suggested that I could just get clip-in bangs. So that's what we did, and she ordered them, she dyed them to match my hair, and we would position it so that it sat right with the hoodies. And yeah, I think just building her look was so fun because Runa can kind of just wear anything that's fun and colorful and playful, and I really got to just enjoy that while playing her.
Which was your favorite Runa look in season one and why?
It's so hard to pick just one. I think what I will say is other than the original, because the original is just so wonderful and getting to wear that was such an honor. But other than the original, I would have to say either the Loan Shark one, because I just find that that's so funny that she gets to be a loan shark quite literally and look like it physically. And I also really love the unicorn. We don't see it too much because I switch into another outfit later in that episode, but I love the unicorn outfit. It was so cool and yeah, just so fun. But they're all amazing. All of them are I love them.
For those who aren't already aware of, the original outfit, that one was the
Yeah, that's where it's the outfit that I wear in episode 8 and it's the I've heard a few different things, but I believe it's the rabbit is what I'm sticking with. Some people have different interpretations on what they think it is, but it's the orange onesie, and she's got these big blue ears that pop down on the side. And if you search up, Runa from the anime, you'll see tons and tons of photos of her in it.
So you mentioned you referenced anime quite a bit. Did you also read the manga as like a compliment?
Yeah, I had looked at some of actually our lead Miku, she gifted it to us all at the very beginning of the before we even started shooting. And it was just such a nice way to start things off. But yes, after I got that, I started looking through, and it was also cool to see even how the manga compared to the anime, and similarities and again like key points of because they would have pulled inspiration from that as well, right? So yeah, I definitely looked through all of that. I think for me, definitely watching the anime was my key because you could hear her voice and see her some of her mannerisms and stuff. But yeah.
It's always really interesting hearing what different actors pull because there's no right or wrong way to do it, right? It's like you kind of just want to maybe capture the essence. So whatever works best for you in your creative process. And Runa also often has like a handbag with her. Did you consider what she put into that handbag? Was that part of your thought process as well?
Yes, she has. If you see in the show, there's a few times where she has her really cool bags there. I definitely had tons of lollipops on me all the time in the bag, just around on set. There's even, I don't know if you can see it underneath some of the wardrobe really, but there's this lollipop chain that I have that I wear under some of them, and it's just a bunch of like maybe like I don't know 10 lollipops that I wear as an accessory so that I could just pull and grab them at any point. But I also would, obviously I didn't have this on set, but I would imagine she's got lots of money hiding in those little bags that she's holding on to. But yeah, definitely lollipops everywhere.
Just some spare cash, to remind people of how much money she has.
Oh yeah.
Can you share some insight into any backstory or childhood you created for Runa or discussed with others and how that shapes who we meet in present day?
Yeah. So one thing that we do know about Runa is she comes from royalty. At one point, it addresses her father, and that you see a photo of him in the Kakegurui Club where before he has taken the throne. So if fans that if they caught that while they're watching, they'll know that Runa's royalty. And we don't dive into a lot of her backstory in season one, but I had a really wonderful conversation with Jackie, who was one of our directors for a couple of the episodes. And we sat down and we talked about, okay, why do we think that Runa is the way that she is? Like, why do we think that she's wearing all these onesie outfits? And what is her family dynamic? And where does she sit within her own family dynamic? And how does that affect how she portrays herself at school? And yeah, just lots of building blocks of pulling some things that we know exist from her already out there within the anime and some of our own story adaptations for Bet. I don't want to lead too much into that because there is potential to explore some of that in the future. But yeah, I'll leave you guys with that little tidbit so far.
I think I'm just really curious, like what position her father holds. Like it was like you mentioned, I picked up on that before he took the throne. So my questions is like, I mean, what kind of royalty is that? And of course, what is her relationship with her father, with her parents? So I really hope that you get to kind of dive deeper into it. And of course, none of it, what you're talking about is canon, but it's always important to shape that backstory because it kind of informs your character's decisions, like you mentioned in present day. In your opinion, what are Runa's primary intentions and goals? Like, what does she see as her future and what does she hope to accomplish?
Yeah, I think that Runa is really, as with all of the students at this school, is really just trying to find her place. And they all have so much wealth and so many expectations on them and just so much pressure. So I think that Runa is trying to find her place in this school and find in where she fits and who can she trust and there's just so much going on. I think that that also she she wears these onesie outfits, and I think that's almost a little bit of a cover, right? We don't see her she can wear these eccentric outfits, but she doesn't want to share a lot about herself. And she yeah, she has her, her people that she's with. She's with Chad in a lot of scenes, and with Dorian, she's definitely by Kira's side and not looking to cross her at all. But I think one thing that's really fun and interesting to watch is you don't actually really know who she lines up with from watching. I have my own internal ideas and thoughts and plans for where that lies at certain points within the series. But I think that yeah, she's really just trying to find her place, as what they all are. And there is this family dynamics and pressure. I don't think anybody can say they haven't felt any pressure from their family for XYZ. And I think that going to this type of a school, just being there alone, the pressure is immense, and it's very competitive and it's all to do well. So
Especially being legacy like Runa is as well. Can you share some insight into her human beaver mascot and how she came to be some kind of a loan shark at school? My two big questions for
Yes.
Runa this season.
Yes. So I think with her becoming a loan shark, she's from royalty. Everybody there is wealthy, but there's different levels of wealth, right? And coming from royalty, you're going to be some of the wealthiest of the wealthy, right? Which is why I think that she's kept around by somebody like Kira, right? Uh, and people come to her for money, which is saying something when it's already people that are wealthy, right? If you're the wealthy people that are going to somebody even wealthier to get more. So I think that just from her family and from the immense wealth that she has that ability to have power over people such as Mary and Ryan. So, yeah, I think that's how we see her into that world. And then in terms of the beaver, I love the fact that she has the beaver as her little sidekick or employee. And I think the surprise of it becoming a wrestler later on into the season is just so funny. And I didn't know it at first until I had read that episode as we were doing table read-throughs who was going to be playing the beaver. So that was really exciting when they gave us that reveal of it being Seth Rollins. And yeah, I just think that it's so funny to imagine him working for Runa. So.
Just to clarify, was Hunter the only one who got to actually work with Seth? Because that was the only scene when he was unmasked.
Yes. So, yeah, Hunter's the only one who had an actual scene with him, but we were all there that day on set. So we met him and we took some photos and I think he was doing some answering some questions and doing some PR for the show while he was there as well. So we'll see if any of that ever pops around. But yeah, we did all meet him and he was super nice and lovely and hopefully he likes his scenes from the show.
I was gonna say, like, how cool was it to meet a professional wrestler on set? I know it's not the sport that you grew up with, but still like something very cool and something kind of out of pocket, out of box for a show like this.
Yeah, it was definitely very fun. And as I said, he was lovely. It was also funny for me to actually meet him in person because I'm just kind of looking up and thinking, oh my gosh, so you would be the person working for me. So that part of it was funny too because he's definitely, as I'm sure everybody can imagine, a lot larger than I am. But yeah, he was great and his scenes, they, like I said, they look so cool. So hopefully everybody else watching it thought so too.
And I'm sure he's welcome back at any time to be your
Oh, of
house pet
course.
in the future. But what's interesting about that is, you know, you say that the beaver's kind of Runa's employee, but at the same time, we see the beaver guarding the house pet library. So he's like kind of like a house pet, but then kind of not at the same time, like not your traditional house pet.
Yeah, I guess he could be Runa's version of a house pet, but I think it's more so he works for me, right? So he works for Runa. So he is not going to nobody's going to be able to steal him away. That's her employee and it's not as though Runa also doesn't get involved and she doesn't gamble. She's not putting herself at risk, right? So I don't think she would ever let herself part with the beaver, but definitely anything she needs done, she snaps his fingers, he's there, he's gonna go do it. So he kind of is like her house pet.
I feel like maybe it is kind of maybe who knows, maybe the beaver started as her house pet, but then she pays the beaver. So, you know, it is like that employee, that transactional relationship. Which was your favorite scene to film in season one and why?
There's so many scenes. I think a couple moments that really stand out are number one, my scenes with Mary, who is played by Eve. We have a couple really fun ones. One by the pool where I'm in the frog onesie, and one where Mary ends up having to be Kira's footstool. Both of those scenes were so fun. And the actress Eve, who plays Mary, she is so wonderful to work with. And when when I was in scenes with her, I just really felt as though she was actually taking me in, and I didn't know what she was going to do next, which as an actor is so exciting because then I don't know what's going to happen, right? So really just getting to play opposite of her was so fun. And I also have a lot of scenes with Dorian, who plays Chad. And we have a moment where Kira comes in and basically everybody's scared of her, and Chad keeps talking. He can't get himself to stop. And so to stop him, I just grab my lollipop and I stick it in his mouth. And that was so fun and such a cool thing to get to do. And Dorian and I were talking, and we actually asked the writers to find a moment where we could put that in because we thought that would be a funny moment. So yeah, those are some standouts for sure.
I love that they're collaborative to allow you to do that and be able to throw your ideas out there. And we, of course, are discussing spoilers at length. So that was the Kakegurui Club when she comes in towards the end of the season. In your eyes, how has Runa been feeling with the student council losing its power and predictability with Yumiko's arrival? Like, what is her allegiance to Kira and the council members, and how does that shift throughout the season?
Yeah, so Runa definitely is, as I think almost everybody at the school is, Runa is scared of Kira. Everybody to an extent, right? She's very powerful. You do not want to be on her bad side because as you've seen if you watch the show, she's not going to put up with any of that. So, and she quite literally, she'll kill you if you're getting in her way. So I think Runa is aware of that and doesn't want to upset the apple cart there, and she's gonna respect Kira. Kira wants Runa around because Runa has money, so Runa's gonna follow the rules in that aspect and not get herself into too much trouble. But even though Runa doesn't like to play the games, I believe that she really enjoys the drama and she likes to watch it unravel and see people under the tension and see how they're going to react and respond. And if Mary comes to her for money, and Ryan owes money, and I think she enjoys having to see them get to play. She loves the hunt, right? When we go into that hunt episode, and she's talking about let the games begin, and you can see the excitement and you can feel it radiating through her, and people are literally getting shot, and she thinks this is great. And I think that's also something to be said that ties back into the wealth, right? When you are so wealthy and powerful and from royalty, everyday things aren't as exciting to you. So something like this, where we're really playing for life and death, it's exciting, and you want to know what's going to happen, and you want to see the drama unfold. So I think Runa secretly is really enjoying that. So
I like how that kind of segues into my next question because she does go against Kira by helping run the Kakegurui Club with Chad in the final hours of term. But like you mentioned, you kind of still see that fear of reprisal when Kira and the others find out. So, what were her motives for participating? Was it just to add a bit more drama in those final hours of term? Was it to reach some kind of fairness? Because otherwise, they would have been cut off. The leaderboard board would have been cut off like a few hours sooner.
yeah, I think that for Runa, as you're getting to that very end of it, she's that's where the most exciting part is going to happen. What are we going to see in these last few hours? So I don't think that she wants to lose that excitement and to lose that ability to watch the games and to see how things are going to unravel. So she participates out of more out of necessity, right? Of to keep things going and to keep things alive. And also, Chad seems to always be pulling Runa into these situations she doesn't need to be in. So I think it's hard for her to say no to him when he's always trying to drag her along. And she feels useful too, right? Getting to, okay, I can be involved, and I can get some more I can loan money to more people, and be involved in these games and all those things. So I think it's more like the enjoyment and the excitement to play, and that element of unpredictability, which is also so present in our show. So yeah, I think that's where she leaves off with that.
Runa loses her spot in the top 10 at end of term, and therefore she's no longer on student council. When the final leaderboard is revealed, she doesn't seem too upset or disappointed. So, in your eyes, how is she feeling about that demotion?
So it's a little bit different in our show because Runa was never on the board to begin with. We don't actually see her in the top 10, in the bottom, anywhere because she's not playing in these games. While and I believe that's also why we see her running the hunt, right? She's the only person that can be actually, news broadcaster is supposed to be impartial, right? So while she still obviously is in Kira's pocket, she is the only person who's not actually playing these games and not actually getting her hands dirty. So she's on student council, but she's not directly involved with the games. We even in the house wars, right? She hands out the cards because she's the most neutral party that can offer the cards to everybody because she's not actually playing. So Runa's sneaky. She's always listening. She knows what's going on. But she's not actually getting her hands dirty. So she's smart.
That has me so curious because she hangs out with student council, like she is part of them, but I just assumed because she wasn't at the school board retreat, but like I don't know if she has some kind of like treasurer role within it, but I'm sure that would be fascinating to explore in the future. How was the St. Dominic's prep set to film in? Any behind the scenes details you can share about any of it?
Yeah, it was so fun. I remember the first day just of walking into the set and seeing it all and kind of just taking it in and looking around thinking, wow, this is a rich school. These kids have a lot of money. And yeah, we just had really, really awesome sets to work with. It was also nice. So the most of the insides of the school was filmed at a studio, and then the outdoor stuff was filmed at U of T in Toronto. So yeah, it was also nice to film something in our backyard, actually have this really, this Netflix show filming here in Toronto at U of T, kind of just crazy, right? We always think, oh, it's just happening out in LA, right? So yeah, our sets were great. I always loved our studio days because we had big lunch rooms and we could all the cast, like we would sit and eat lunch together and hang out and chat. And then if you had to go to wardrobe that day or if someone was just coming in for a table read, we were all still together because we're all have a lot more area than when you're on location. So yeah, it was just fun to all be together and to hang out and technically work, I guess.
I think one of my favorite sets was the student council quarters and that round table, which I spoke about with some of your co-stars, and they mentioned it was like exactly what you see in the show with like that lit blue rim and how official it all felt.
Yeah, that room was really, really cool. And I also really love that we have the staircase. So that way when people are coming down, or especially there's a lot of times where Kira's up at the top and she's ordering us from up there, or you see her do her walk down and it's so intimidating. So it was nice to have a space with that sort of power dynamic and the lighting and the fish tank in there too. That Yeah, there's some really, really cool scenes in there and just the way everything is shot. Yeah, really fun.
Before I talk about your ensemble cast and maybe some favorite memories that you had, I just wanted to give mention to two of like your constant scene partners, which were Dorian and Aviva, because the three of them, as mentioned in the show, like they kind of became thick as thieves watching Kira and Riri as her right hand kind of run the school and the student council. So how was it working with those two specifically in the scenes you shared together?
Yeah, they are both so fun to work with. Aviva is I didn't know what Dory would look like. as this character just from reading the scripts, how is that going to manifest? How who is going to be able to play that? And just watching her and the choices that she would make, oh my gosh, how can you not enjoy that character? I think one thing that she also does really well is she brings that human emotional connection to her character. The scenes that she has with Michael or alone in her bedroom, I I remember seeing Aviva just after I had watched those episodes. I ran into her and was saying, "Oh my God," because I never saw it when we were filming. I had only saw the version of Dory with Runa, right? And just the switches that she's able to do, I was very impressed and thought this is like wonderful to get to experience both ends of it of working with this, the a bit more abrasive and intense side of Dory, and then to see the softer, more vulnerable side of her was really, really phenomenal. And Dorian, he was he was my right hand in this show. We're always together. He definitely is such a funny guy. He really embodies some of his characteristics of Chad, just him as a person. If he's got something to say, he's gonna say it. If he wants to do something, he's gonna do it. But one thing that's really great with Dorian is he is so open to whatever you want to do. If you want to try this, let's do it. If you want to like change things up, okay, he's gonna roll with whatever. And also really has a good heart and very much, even though he plays this Chad where it could just be not the greatest energy. He is always so kind to everybody and is always making sure that everybody feels comfortable. And he was my designated lollipop opener because I had my nails painted all the time and stickers on them, so we didn't want to chip them. So he would open the lollipops for me in between every scene. And yeah, he's so fun. He's an adventurous guy, and I loved working with both of them. They're great.
That's so wonderful to hear. And yeah, his character was just so like casual and roll with the punches, but it was so fun to see everyone's dynamics with each other with these characters. So speaking about your whole cast, do you have a favorite memory or two just with everybody? It could be on or even offset because I know there are a lot of dinners and time spent together on the weekends as well.
I have so many favorite memories. It's hard to pick just one. One memory though that really does stand out is after we finished shooting, maybe a couple weeks after, it was Miku's birthday, who obviously plays Yumiko, and she did a big cottage weekend. So we all drove up to her cottage, and some people flew back in from because we're all from across the country. So I think almost, if not everybody, flew back in or drove up to her cottage, and we stayed there for the night. We did karaoke, we played outdoor games. Her parents had this whole setup. They had people come in and cook, and there was a big feast, and we stayed up and we slept in tents, and it was a nice way to just recap at the end of we just spent these few months working together. And yes, well, we had so much fun shooting. It was nice to just kind of spend some time together and decompress and appreciate and celebrate the time that we had. So that was so fun, and I have so many videos from that day, and everyone just being able to hang out and catch up and relax. That was such a fun one. And yeah, there's just so many good moments. We really got lucky with a cast that genuinely all likes each other and also so motivated to work on the show and wanted it to be successful. I think usually you get like at least a couple bad apples of, okay, maybe this person doesn't really want to be here or whatever, but everyone was genuinely just really wanting to show up and do the work and to yeah, make this a great project. So got really lucky.
How was it working with Simon Barry, your showrunner, and his creative vision for the show? Like I can hear that it was very collaborative. So what was it like with Simon and your writers and directors as well?
Yeah, I think that Simon definitely set the tone for this show, meaning that right away when I first met him, he came over and he hugged me and he has such a warm energy and smile to him. And he told us all, if you have any questions or anything you need to chat about, you can text me or you can call me, which was so not something I was expecting from a showrunner, genuinely, just because they're so busy and they have so many things on their plate. And he was directing four of these episodes, so just his openness with us, and also to hear our ideas, and the writers too. When we would have table reads, they would still be kind of writing the episodes as we would go along. So if people had major concerns or things that they wanted to change, they were open to that, which is again, not something to be expected, but so, so appreciated. And Simon and Jackie, one of our other block directors, they made a group chat with all of us so we can all keep in touch and talking about even just after we had wrapped the show, but even now as the show has been coming out and being able to support each other as everybody online has lots of opinions, and just being able to stay connected has been really helpful. And yeah, he's so great. And he's great as a director too. He knows what he's looking for, and he's able to get that out of everybody, which is great. And exactly, he has a clear vision, which is what you want to see from a director. And one other, as we're just talking about people that really stood out for the show, I'll also say Miku, our number one. Everybody watching it will clearly see she is phenomenal, but she also really took on the role of being a number one very well. She made everyone feel welcomed. It didn't feel like I'm this person, so I'm more important than you or anything. The first day that I met her, she came up and she said, "I'm so excited to meet you. I've heard about you," and da 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 da, and just made me feel very welcomed. And I think that she did that with everybody who came in, and she was also so on the ball and ready to work, and that set the tone for everybody else of thinking, okay, we need to come in and we'll have our fun and we'll enjoy when we have that time, but then when we're here to work, we're gonna do our best to make the best product out there. So I think the combination of Miku and Simon really just set the tone for our show.
And leadership really comes from top down. So I'm so enthused to hear that. And I know you did mention in the past that there are numbers in a call sheet, but it never, like you said, felt like a hierarchy. Like you were treated the same, given that respect and time from everyone. And that's so vital for like a healthy collaboration and experience. If renewed for a season two, what would you like to explore with Runa? And are there any other storylines you are excited to see more of?
I think I really want to lean more into Runa's backstory, and we see a lot of the other characters' family dynamics, but we don't really hear too much about Runa's and what her life is at home. And I also going to a boarding school, that's so important. Why are these kids here? Most of them because their parents have sent them here for a particular reason. So I would really love to be able to explore that more, and also to see more of Runa's interactions with some other characters. I would love to see Runa and Riri team up. I think that would be because they're both kind of sneaky, don't want to say too much, and kind of doing things in behind the scenes. So I would love to see the two of them together. I think that would be a fun pair. And also to see a bit of Runa with Yumiko, because we don't really see a lot of them together. And especially because Miku and I get along so well, I think it would be fun for us to do some scenes together, and to, yeah, see that dynamic between Runa and Yumiko would be fun.
I love that little interaction that Runa and Riri share when she's like, "Oh, is this what the silent treatment looks like?" And then she just caves like immediately, and like they just start throwing each other under the bus. But yeah, I would definitely be interested in looking into Runa's past. Like from royalty, you would think that she lives in a castle. So you're thinking like, why did her parents send her to St. Dom's? Like, what are they trying to improve or get out of her? But either way, I think she'll be just fine. I mean, she's collecting so much interest on the loans that she is giving out to other students and taking from, I guess, their parents. But you know this, but being inspired by any popular beloved manga would draw the attention of many. So, how conscious were you of this fact and wanting to do the source material justice, but balancing that with telling your own story and bringing something new to the character?
For me, in order to find that balance between the inspiration and what I wanted to bring to the role, I started just by doing as much research as I can to learn about what's out there about Runa, and especially because there already are so many fans of her from the manga and from the anime. So doing my research was definitely a very important starting point. But then once you get there and once you're on set, you kind of also have to just let it breathe and let it be what it's going to be. And how other people, how your scene partners approach the scenes are going to then affect what you do and what you say, and that's going to change, right? I'm a different Runa when I am in my scenes with Mary than I am when I'm dealing with Kira and student council, right? Just as we are in our day-to-day lives, you're different with your friends than you are maybe when you're with your parents. So, and going back to what you said before, I definitely want to explore more into why Runa is at this boarding school, and I think there's some really cool potentials to navigate through that. I forget if there was a second part to your question there, so I don't know if I fully answered that. But oh, you were saying about the online stuff, right? The online. Yeah. So once the trailer dropped, I think there was a big distinction where a lot of people thought that Rex, who is played by Rami, was Runa, and a lot of people were not happy. They were they were just looking for a different energy to Runa. And I just kind of kept quiet while the trailer dropped. And I thought, we'll see once they see the show and what they think. And once people had realized in the show that, oh, that wasn't actually Runa, there was a lot more positive reaction. And it's so funny because Rami and I were chatting about it, and we'd just be like, oh, look, another meme of somebody thinking that that's that Rex is Runa, and they're not thrilled. But the fan reaction now has been so positive for at least for seeing me as Runa instead of Rex. And I think it's just it aligns a little bit more, I guess, with what they were expecting. But most of the fans have been really great and appreciative of my version of Runa. So hopefully that continues and we'll see. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk on TikTok and Instagram and Reddit and everywhere. So
Is it kind of hard to tune it out? Like when those trailers were released and that initial reaction, which I know there was a lot of, I think, like misinformation that kind of got spread around that time. So is that something that you see a bit of it and then you just try to like not focus on it and like take screen breaks, or what was that process like leading up to release?
I think it's definitely important to take screen breaks and step away from the phone for sure. But for me, I didn't find it too crazy because I also just thought, okay, well, once you see the show, you're gonna realize that this isn't right. And a trailer is just that. It just gives you a little snippet of what to expect, right? It's not telling the whole story. And nowhere within that trailer did people say Rex is Runa. It's even a different name, right? So it was kind of funny that people made that assumption. And I don't think any of us knew that that's where things were going to go. But for me, I didn't worry too much about it because I knew, okay, in a couple of weeks, once they see the episodes, they'll realize that that's not Runa.
And I do think that you all should be so proud of the work that you put out there. And I know you all had so much fun and also so much care in crafting your characters. So as long as you're happy with that final product, which I know you all are, um, how was the response from friends and family? Because they must have been so excited to see you in this show. And I know Runa was a character kind of kept under wraps. Like you, it wasn't on IMDb that you were playing Runa, so that's where also some of that information spiraled. But how is it being now that everyone can see it?
Now that everyone can see it out there, it's been phenomenal. And my friends and family have been so great and so excited and supportive for me, which is awesome. A bunch of people have been taking photos and tagging me in it, or I've seen some fan edits even too of me as Runa, which yeah, it's just exciting. And it's cool to see that because once you make a show, you do it and you can't talk about it for so long and you're excited, but it's just a thing that you did that nobody knows about, right? So it's fun now that people can actually see what's out there and my friends that were thinking, okay, so what did you do for those few months that we didn't really, see you or hear from you? Oh, now I can see what it actually was, what you were up to. So yeah, it's just nice for everybody to experience that with all of us.
And you had the cast kind of premiere party at Casa Loma as well, like the week before release. So how much fun was it to go there and get to see everyone? And I think you screened the first two episodes as well.
We did. We watched the first two episodes together, and it was really nice because some of the castmates that live farther away, everybody flew back or drove back in for it, but I hadn't seen some of them in a while, right? Because some of them that live in Vancouver or Winnipeg or all over, right? So it was really nice to just get to see everyone and to be together and also watch those episodes together and hear our reactions, but also there were a lot of other people invited to see those first two episodes that hadn't seen it before. So to also hear interactions of other people where there were moments where they're shocked or they're excited or they laugh. It was cool for us to get to experience that together. And also when you're watching it, you are reminded of things that maybe you kind of forgot about or something else that was happening behind the scenes. So that was really fun and nice for us to experience together. And then, yeah, just it felt like being back at summer camp, right? We all got to hang out and to chat and just enjoy catching up too, which was really nice.
Well, I'm sure that the group chat will continue rolling, and I really hope for positive news for a second season. So, congratulations on the
Hoping.
show once again. I just wanted to note that you can next be seen in the short film Burden. So, what can you share about this project and the team behind it?
Burden is a short film that I just worked on recently, and I play Dakota, who is going through it really very different from Runa. She has recently was in a car accident with her mom, and her mom is in a coma. And the short basically revolves around her dealing with having to take care of her brother on her own and deciding what that future is going to look like if her mom doesn't make it, is she going to be able to take care of her brother? Is she going to keep going to school? Is she going to put him into foster care? It's a lot of unanswered questions and it's very, very dark and she doesn't always cope with it in the best ways. So that was like I said, a very different project, very emotional, but really fun to sink my teeth into something new. And the actors who worked on that, so talented, very talented actors. I think you actually had one of the girls on here, Ellie O'Brien. She worked on my Life with the Walter Boys, so she plays my friend in that. And oh my gosh, my brother in it, so great. And yeah, some other really phenomenal actors. So just to get to work with them and on some really emotional scenes was so fun. And yeah, I'm excited for when that comes out. I don't have details right now, but in the future.
Definitely very heavy subject matter. And Dakota's brother also has ADHD, which is this added layer of like, what do I do? Can I be that caregiver? Your director, Connor Forrest, who co-wrote it with Darcy Wilder. So, what was the creative team on that one like?
Yeah, we have some there, yeah, directors, writer, and our producers on that too. Devon and Paul, I've worked closely with all of them, kind of putting this together. So one thing that was really exciting for me to work on this project was I was brought in very early on. So I actually got to read opposite the actors while they were still auditioning. And I hadn't experienced that before where I was already cast and then brought in to do chemistry reads. So that was really fun. And they just really trusted me on this set, which was nice. And really let me kind of take the reins. And I think honestly, I learned a lot from just being on set of Bet and watching how Miku and how Simon, how they being the leads, how they operated and thought took that forward into this, thinking that that's how I want to be. I want to make everyone feel welcome and I want to inspire them to bring their A game to this project. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful that they created a set where I felt like I could do that, where I could take those reins and just dive into our material and explore. So it was, yeah, I'm excited for that project. It'll be different for people who have seen me as Runa, but it's definitely so fun, and I like exploring those darker stories too. Is really really fulfilling as an actor for sure.
I love that for you. And you mentioned getting to read opposite other casts, and you were the casting director for that one as well, which is something new to
Kind
add, the behind the scenes kind of work. So I hope that that continues for you. And I'm just so excited for everyone to see your work as Runa and Bet. I have one more question, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
I have to answer this in Runa's mindset, and her favorite ice cream flavor would definitely be a cotton candy or rainbow ice cream. There is no question in my mind. It would have to be one of those.
I love it. So on brand for the character. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Laura, for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and so many of the other cast members. We've loved getting to interview with you. So thank you.
I hope that everyone continues to follow your work. Hopefully, more of Runa in a second season. Fingers crossed. Until then, for all those watching, catch Laura in Bet. Season one is out now on Netflix. Burdened will be coming out in the future, so stay tuned for that, and we will see you next time.